Last week I cloned my favorite tank top and made my own tank top pattern. This week I am adding some extra support to it. First thing I need to do is I need to actually take the measurement from where the top of my strap is to right underneath my breast tissue. It's important to get your measuring tape like right under there. Now I have my tank top pattern and I'm going to measure that distance from the top of my strap onto my pattern. This is a pattern that I made last week. If you want to see how I did that, I just cloned a tank top that I have that I really like. I will link that above and I will also link it in the description below. I will say the one mistake that I made here is I took my primary measurement and placed it on the back pattern piece instead of the front pattern piece, which is not ideal because then what I'm going to do to match that up and make sure the bottom of the bralette is in the same place is I'm going to copy where that line is from the two pieces based on where they measure up on the side measurement rather than using that measurement from the top both times. Just because on this tank top, the seam on the top of the shoulder is not right at the apex. It kind of curves around my shoulder a little bit more, so I should have actually done that on my front piece. Now, I'm going to use this 1/2 inch elastic. It's something that I had in my stash. So I need to make sure that I add seam allowance that's going to accommodate that. And I would like both sides of the elastic to be covered in fabric so that I don't have it rubbing against my skin. So I'm going to add an extra inch onto my line there. Now, if you are using a really stretchy fabric, you might actually want to decrease the length that you are marking on your pattern, just to give yourself a little more negative ease, or I guess a little less ease, so that it's tighter to you. But I am actually going to use a fabric that is not as stretchy as the main fabric that I used for my tank top. Now that I've marked my lines, I'm going to fold my pattern on those lines. If you want to, you could just trace out another pattern piece, but I just kind of feel like why waste the paper, and this way all this pattern piece will be kept together. So I'm going to pin both of my pieces onto the fold as I would in my regular tank top. And I'm just gonna fold the rest of the pattern out of the way when I'm cutting. I'm making sure to run a line of pins right along that fold line as well so that it doesn't shift on me when I'm folding my paper back and forth. So everything's all pinned down and weighted down, I can go ahead and cut. I'm going to cut in between my pattern pieces with scissors instead of my rotary cutter, just because you know how things go with a rotary cutter. Sometimes you can cut a little bit too close and I don't want to accidentally cut my pattern in half. So these lines I'm going to do with my scissors, and then I'll finish up with my rotary cutter. Now that I have my pieces all cut out, I'm going to assemble them the same way that I would my tank top. Again, I'll refer you to the video that I did last week because I didn't want to have to show you the exact same thing twice. So I'm going to sew down my side seams as well as my strap seams. If you really feel like you need to reduce the ease in the bralette, you could also angle in those side seams so that they come to a smaller diameter towards the bottom of the garment, but you're going to want to keep your arms in the same length that they are so they match up with the tank top. So there I am, I'm also going to do those same seams on my tank top. Now I've measured this band around my rib cage and I'm just going to sew the ends together so that they'll lay nice and flat. Now that I have that, it's time to attach it to my bralette. I've marked my bralette in quarters with my side seams being halfway marked and also in the center of the garment. And I've marked my elastic in quarters as well. That just gives me anchor points that I can start with, and then I will stretch my band out between the anchor points and pin it all down. Now I'm just going to stitch that on the raw edge with a zigzag stitch. Once I have that stitched, I'm going to fold the band up so that I have fabric on both sides, and I will once again run a zigzag stitch. There we go, that is all together. All right, so I've tucked my bralette inside of my tank top and I'm going to match up the shoulder seams and the side seams first, and then I will carry on pinning the rest of the raw edges around the armholes and around the neck. All right, so I've taken 10% off of the length of my band, which is a 2-inch wide band that's been folded in half, And I've done that by taking the lengths of my neck opening and my arm opening and multiplying it by 0.90, and that gives me my length for each of my bands. I have my pinned edges. If you want, you could go through and like run a stitch on that first, but I'm just gonna pin, I have all those pins in anyways. I'm just gonna go and pin my band on at the same time, and I'll sew it all at once. I've marked my quarter points on my band and on my shirt, so I'm going to match those up first to anchor the band on, and then I will stretch out the rest of the band and pin it to the garment. There we go, it's all pinned on with raw edges together on the right side of the fabric. Now I'm going to use a zigzag stitch to secure that. So all of my banding is on now. Now I need to make it lie flat. So I'm going to press it down, and I'm going to use some pins just because I find this fabric keeps rolling on me, so I'll pin it first, then I'll press it. And that's just to keep my seam allowance folded down underneath my banding. And I'm going to use my double needle for that. And I'm going to use contrasting colors. I almost immediately regretted it because I had the tension so low on my presser foot in order to not stretch out the fabric, that it just was going kind of wonky, but it looked okay in the end. The last thing I have to do is put on a hem. So I'm using my gauge to fold my hem up 1 inch. And then I'm going to stitch that out with my double needle as well. Well, there you have it. That's how you can add some support to your favorite tank top. As you can see, I made this out of the same semi-sheer stretch fabric that I made my tank top last week out of. So again, I'll be using this likely as a layering tank. Although the bra component underneath does give me a bit more coverage. So honestly, if I were gonna wear it without anything on top of it, I'd probably be a bit more comfortable with that. I really hope this tutorial was helpful for you. I hope that you're gonna give this a try and make something for yourself. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, do all the things, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time.